Hello. I've been asked why I don't talk about Israel or Netanyahu. Well, I do. I haven't done so for a while, but I don't intend to get stuck in some sort of echo chamber. I put my cards very firmly on the table. I don't like Mr. Netanyahu. I think he's a twit. I also think he is ruthless and foolish. And I think, I tend to think that he is those things because he's trying desperately to hold on to power, because he's worried that he is losing power and is losing authority in Israel. He was losing that even before the war began. So an interesting story has come out today via the BBC, via Panorama, that one of the officers from the Secret Service, a fellow called Udi Levi, has told the BBC that he advised Benjamin Netanyahu that Hamas's finances could be attacked, and Benjamin Netanyahu didn't do anything. It's rather like the advice he was apparently given by Egypt, that Hamas was planning a terror attack before October the 7th. Now, the fact that Netanyahu doesn't do anything about either of these things doesn't mean that he is consciously planning to encourage Hamas to attack so that he has an excuse to attack Gaza. That is a conspiracy theory that I utterly reject, and it's an absurd theory. But I entirely agree that Netanyahu has been stupid and has put his country in danger on a number of occasions, and so many people have been militantly marching against Netanyahu, not only before the war, but during the war recently, in the last week. People have been calling for his resignation across Israel. And it's much harder, of course, to unseat a prime minister during war, and he would know that. So I think a lot of the reason for Netanyahu seizing on the idea of going it alone against Hamas in Gaza was about taking on the mantle of being a wartime prime minister, and the kudos that goes along with that, the kudos and the impunity that goes along with that. But I think it's mistake after mistake. And the story that Udi Levi has come up with, that he presented his issue, his ideas in 2016 and got no response from Netanyahu. When he was asked if there was a connection between Netanyahu's alleged reluctance to deal with Hamas's finances and the 7th of October attack, Udi Levi is absolutely clear. Yes, of course there is. Of course there is, because of the amount of money that Hamas has managed to accumulate. And where that money has been placed. Investments from road construction, pharmaceuticals, medical equipment, tourism, mining, gold, and luxury real estate. There's a parallel between the funding of Hamas and the funding of Putin. And bad players can go a long way if they've got money in the bank. But, and this is, I'm afraid, where I part company. The West and Mr. Zelensky thought that the way to attack Putin was to throw sanctions at him. I'm afraid the same issues that Mr. Levy brings against Netanyahu, I would bring against really the whole of the Western government system, that they acted too late against Putin. It was obvious that Putin was assembling his war chest for years. The time to be dealing with sanctions was before the attack. The time to be targeting the money was before the attack. And in that, Levy is absolutely right. Netanyahu failed to protect his people on the 7th of October. Netanyahu failed to protect his people before that by failing to target Hamas's fundraising. And it's a big failure. And then the third failure is Netanyahu's decision to go it alone and not to use the support and goodwill that was spread across the globe on the 7th of October, but instead to single-handedly go for a ground offensive against Gaza. That ground offensive, just so that people who leave comments don't have any doubt, involves the aerial bombardment as well. I think history has now demonstrated, events have demonstrated, that Netanyahu hasn't crushed Hamas. More work needs to be done, and even then he hasn't crushed Hamas. More than that, this aggressive ground offensive has actually sparked resilience and revenge, and just as in Afghanistan the Taliban was born out of Russia's attack, so too ISIS was born out of the attack in Iraq. So too the attack on Gaza will birth God knows what. And Hamas is not obliterated. Hamas is still there. The only way to have dealt with Hamas was to have dealt with an invasion that was significantly slower, significantly more targeted, and was led by an international force. And I think that was a possibility in the immediate days following October the 7th. But Netanyahu wanted to be the strong man of the Middle East, and his bellicosity got the better of him. So, yes, I think he's wrong. Absolutely, fundamentally wrong. And I hope that that helps to fill the void in my stuff on Israel. I think Netanyahu is wrong. I also think Hamas is wrong. I'm a great believer in the state of Israel. I'm also a great believer in the state of Palestine, and a great believer in the possibility of the two-state solution. And I believe absolutely in dealing with the reality as it's served up, not in trying to rewrite history, and not trying to put the clock back. We deal with what we've got. And what we've got is the possibility of a two-state solution, and a belligerent prime minister, and a defiant terrorist organization, and two communities completely destroyed by conflict. One community almost razed to the ground, and wrongly. And an attack on Rafah will be one attack too far.